You ever see those folks on TV all breathless and sweaty saying, "Exercise changed my life"? Yeah, me neither. They make it look so easy, don't they? Like all you need to do is get off the couch and suddenly you're a fitness guru. But let's be real, for most of us it's not that simple. Truth is, I like my comfy chair. It's my sanctuary, my little piece of heaven after a long day. The thought of trading it for a treadmill? Not so appealing. I like a good burger, the kind that's juicy with all the fixings. It's my guilty pleasure, my reward for surviving the week, but let's face it, those burgers were starting to show. But lately, my jeans were feeling a bit snug. You know that moment when you try to button up and realize you might need to lie down to get them on? Yeah, that was me. My doctor, bless her heart, suggested I get moving. She didn't sugarcoat it. She said, "You need to start walking, or else." Or else what? I didn't want to find out. No marathons, she said, just a brisk walk every day. She made it sound so simple, like it was the easiest thing in the world. Just put one foot in front of the other, right? That's how the 10,000 step challenge landed on my plate. Sounded easy enough. I mean, how hard could it be to walk a few extra steps each day? Walk a bit, lose a bit, right? That's what I thought. I imagined myself shedding pounds effortlessly just by strolling around the block. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were days when it rained, days when I was tired, and days when every step felt like a mile. But it was an eye-opener, that's for sure. I started to notice things I never paid attention to before. The way the air smelled after a rain, the sound of birds chirping in the morning, the friendly nods from fellow walkers. So I strapped on a pedometer, fancy word for step counter, and it became my new best friend. It was like having a little coach on my hip, cheering me on with every step. Laced up my boots, the ones that hadn't seen dirt in a while, and I felt a strange sense of excitement. It was like gearing up for an adventure, even if that adventure was just a walk around the block, and set out to conquer the sidewalk. Each step felt like a small victory, a tiny rebellion against my old sedentary ways. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. It wasn't just about the steps, it was about changing my mindset, my habits, my life. And that, my friends, is a journey worth taking. First few days, brutal. My feet felt like they were on fire. Turns out those fancy work boots weren't made for marathon walking. And the boredom, walking around the same old block day after day, talk about a snooze fest. I even tried listening to podcasts. Thought I'd learn something while I walked. Problem was, I kept spacing out, missing half the show. My brain just couldn't handle the monotony. I was ready to quit. Seriously, what was the point of all this walking if it made me miserable? But then something funny happened. Remember those old mixtapes? The ones you'd make for a road trip, filled with your favorite tunes? Yeah, that's what saved me. I dug out my phone, cranked up some classic rock, and suddenly walking wasn't so bad. The rhythm got me going. I found myself walking faster, further, without even realizing it. And you know what? The scenery started to change too. Instead of staring at my feet, I was looking up, noticing things I'd never seen before. Turns out, even a boring old neighborhood can be interesting if you open your eyes. Who knew? I found a hidden park tucked away behind some houses. A little creek I'd never noticed before. Even met some of my neighbors. Turns out, when you're not cooped up in your car, you actually get to experience your surroundings. I started venturing out further, exploring different parts of town. I even convinced my dog, a lazy mutt named Gus, to join me. He wasn't thrilled at first, but he warmed up to the idea of sniffing new fire hydrants. It wasn't just about the steps anymore, it was about adventure, about discovery. And let me tell you, there's a whole lot of both waiting for you right outside your front door. Section 5. The day the dog went on strike. Speaking of Gus, there was this one day that stands out more than any other. We were halfway through our usual walk, feeling good, enjoying the fresh air and the sunshine, when he just stopped, planted his paws firmly on the ground, and refused to budge an inch. I coaxed him, I pleaded with him, I even tried bribing him with his favorite treats, but nothing worked. He was as stubborn as a mule. Turns out he'd found the biggest, muddiest puddle he'd ever seen and decided it was the perfect time for a bath. Right there in the middle of the sidewalk, he plopped himself down. I'm talking full-on mud bath, rolling around, splashing, and having the time of his life. He was soaked from head to tail, and I was laughing so hard I could barely stand. We must have looked like we'd just survived a natural disaster as we walked home. Some days you just gotta roll with it, right? Life with Gus is always an adventure, and that day was no exception. As we made our way back, Gus decided to shake off some of the mud, splattering it everywhere, including all over me. I wiped mud off my face, and Gus just looked so pleased with himself. It was impossible to be mad at him. When we finally got home, the first thing I did was grab the hose and start cleaning him off. He wasn't too thrilled about that part. Of course, he shook off the water again, and I ended up getting soaked in the process. After a thorough rinse and a good toweling off, Gus looked content and happy, as if the whole ordeal had been just another fun day in his book. We sat on the porch together, both exhausted but happy. It was one of those moments that reminded me why I love having Gus in my life. He looked up at me with those big, loving eyes, and I couldn't help but smile. No matter what, Gus always knows how to make life interesting. As the sun set, we enjoyed the peaceful evening, knowing that tomorrow would bring another adventure with Gus. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Section 6. Rain or shine, the importance of consistency. Consistency is the backbone of any successful endeavor. It's the thread that weaves through the fabric of our daily lives, holding everything together. Let me tell you, not every walk was a picnic. Some days it rained. The skies would open up and it felt like the world was against me. The rain would soak through my clothes, making each step feel heavier. Some days it was cold. The biting wind would cut through my layers, chilling me to the bone. My breath would fog up in front of me and my fingers would go numb. Some days I just plain didn't feel like it. The comfort of the couch was tempting, and the thought of stepping outside seemed like a monumental task. My motivation would wane, and I'd question why I was even doing this. But I kept telling myself, consistency is key. It's not about how I feel in the moment, but about the long-term benefits. I reminded myself of the goals I had set and the progress I wanted to make. Even on the tough days, I'd lace up my boots and get out there. It wasn't always easy, but I knew that each step I took was a step towards my goals. The act of putting on my shoes became a ritual, a signal to my mind and body that it was time to move, even if it was just for a short walk around the block. Sometimes that's all I could manage, but it was enough. It was about maintaining the habit, keeping the momentum going, because I realized something important. It's not about being perfect, it's about showing up. Each walk, no matter how short or long, was a testament to my commitment. It was a reminder that I was capable of pushing through challenges. And you know what? Those tough walks? They were the ones that tested my resolve the most. The uphill battles, the challenging terrains, they pushed me to my limits. They often turned out to be the most rewarding. The sense of accomplishment I felt after completing a difficult walk was unparalleled. It was a reminder that I could overcome obstacles, no matter how daunting they seemed. There's something about pushing through a challenge that makes you feel alive. It's in those moments of struggle that we discover our true strength. Consistency, even in the face of adversity, builds resilience and character. It teaches us that we are capable of more than we ever imagined. Section 7. Feeling the difference, energy, sleep, and those genes. Now let's talk results. Did I lose weight? Sure did. But more importantly, I felt different, more energy, better sleep. And those genes? They were fitting a whole lot better. But it wasn't just the physical changes. My mood improved too. I was less stressed, more patient. Turns out there's something about moving your body that just makes you feel better all around. Who knew walking could do all that? I sure didn't. But I'm a believer now. Section 8. More than just steps, the mental benefits. Here's the thing I didn't expect. Walking became my me time. Time to clear my head, think things through, just be present in the moment. No phone calls, no emails, no distractions, just me, my thoughts, and the open road. It's amazing how much we miss when we're always rushing around. The simple beauty of a sunset, the sound of birds singing, the feeling of the wind on your face. Walking forced me to slow down and appreciate the little things, and that, my friends, was priceless. Section 9. Lessons learned. It's not a sprint, it's a walk in the park. This 10,000-step challenge wasn't about becoming an athlete. It was about taking care of myself, both physically and mentally. And you know what I learned? It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need fancy equipment or expensive gym memberships. Just put one foot in front of the other and start walking. That's it. It's that simple. And trust me, the rewards are worth it. It's not a sprint, folks. It's a marathon, or in this case, a walk in the park. Section 10. Would I do it again? Absolutely. So, would I recommend this whole 10,000 step thing? You bet I would. It wasn't always easy, but it was good for me. Good for my body, good for my mind, and good for my soul. And who knows? Maybe it'll be good for you too. You never know until you try, right? What have you got to lose? Besides maybe a few pounds and a whole lot of stress. Section 11. Your turn. Lace up and hit the pavement. So there you have it. My 10,000 step adventure. It wasn't always pretty, but it was real, and it taught me a lot. Now it's your turn. Lace up those shoes, grab a friend or a dog, and get out there. The world is waiting. And hey, if you see a guy walking with a big grin on his face, come say hi. It might just be me.